All right, today we're going to talk about building something, the architecture of workforce engagement. Now, I know, you've heard that term 1,000 times, but what does it actually mean? And, more importantly, how do you build it? Well, let's dive in and find out. So let's be honest with each other for a minute. When you hear that phrase, workforce engagement, where does your mind go? Does it immediately just scream corporate jargon? Kind of feel like just another empty buzzword? Yeah. If you're nodding along, trust me, you are not alone. For a lot of us, it falls squarely into that exact category, HR jargon. It's something that sounds like it gets talked about in boardrooms, or maybe it's the focus of that one annual survey that, let's be real, most of us just click through. It feels like this big, top-down thing that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're actually doing day to day. But what if that's not the whole story? What if we've been looking at this whole thing completely backwards? What if the real meaning is actually way more powerful and way more practical than we've ever been led to believe? Okay, so here's the absolute key. Forget about those annual surveys. Seriously. Real engagement, it's all about what happens every single day. It's about that daily motivation. It's about building an environment where every person, every day, feels like they matter, feels valued, and is actually committed to the team's success. It's a living, breathing thing, right? Not just some box you check once a year. So the question is, how do we actually build this thing? Well, the whole foundation rests on 5 core pillars. And I want you to think of these as the actual, practical, hands-on building blocks you need for a motivated team. And here they are. This is basically our roadmap for the next few minutes. We've got empower people, share responsibility, recognize effort, encourage growth, and, last but not least, build trust. Every single one of these is crucial, and they all have to work together. So let's break them down one by one. All right, let's get started with the absolute foundation. Pillar number 1, empower people. This is where everything begins. So what does empowering people actually look like? Well, this isn't some fuzzy, abstract idea. It's about real, tangible actions. First, it's about giving people autonomy. The freedom to actually own their work. It also means making sure they have the tools and resources they need to get the job done. And this is a big one. It's about trusting your team members to make decisions. It's the huge difference between micromanaging and actually leading. Okay, so from there, we move on to our second pillar, which really builds on the first. We're going from empowering individuals to creating collective ownership. And that's pillar 2, share responsibility. This is all about a huge shift in mindset. It's about moving away from this is my job to this is our mission. See, when responsibility is shared across the team, it creates this incredibly powerful sense of collective ownership. Of course, that's impossible unless everyone has crystal clear roles and goals. You have to know what you're aiming for, right? The result is that everyone feels accountable, not just for their little piece of the puzzle, but for the success of the whole team. All right, next up, we have a pillar that taps into a really fundamental human need. Pillar number 3, recognize effort. This one seems so simple, but it is so often overlooked. And look, recognition is not just about the end-of-year bonus. Not at all. It's about consistently and genuinely acknowledging hard work, whether that's publicly in a team meeting or just in a quiet one-on-one chat. It's about taking that moment to celebrate the milestones, the big wins, and the small ones. And this is so important. It's about valuing the process, the grit and the grind, not just that flashy final result. That's what really tells people that what they do matters. Okay, let's shift gears and look to the future with pillar number 4, encourage growth. This is all about investing in your people as actual human beings, not just as cogs in a machine. Think about it. An engaged team is a growing team. That means you're actively giving people chances to learn new skills. Maybe it's a new piece of software, or maybe it's a leadership workshop. It also means supporting their long-term career goals, really showing them that you're invested in their personal journey. And maybe the most important part of all is creating a safe environment where it's okay to try things, to mess up, and to learn from those mistakes without being afraid. That is where the real growth happens.
And that brings us to our final pillar. Honestly, this is the one that holds the entire thing together. It's the glue. Pillar 5, build trust.
Just think about it for a second. Without trust, well, empowerment feels way too risky, right? Shared responsibility completely falls apart. Any recognition you give feels fake, and there's definitely no safety to grow. Trust, it's built on 2 things: transparency in how you communicate and consistency in what you do. Your words and your actions have to line up. And when they do, you create what's called psychological safety. That feeling that you can actually be yourself, take a few risks, and not get punished for it. It is the absolute bedrock of everything else. Okay, so we've walked through all 5 pillars. Let's take a step back and look at the whole structure we've built. This is the architecture of success. This is how we get from some abstract idea to a real, tangible, collective achievement. This right here perfectly sums up the big shift in thinking we've been talking about. On one hand, you have the myth that engagement is just some annual survey, a top-down order, or, something for HR to deal with. But the reality is that it's built on what we do every single day. It's about empowering people, and it is absolutely 100% everyone's responsibility, from the brand new hire all the way up to the CEO.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Putting these 5 pillars into practice isn't just some nice to have to make people a little happier at work. It is the fundamental architecture for building shared success. Why? Because an engaged team is an effective team. They're aligned, they're motivated, and they are committed to hitting those goals together.
So I'm going to leave you with a question to chew on. As you think about those 5 building blocks we talked about, empowerment, shared responsibility, recognition, growth, and trust, which single one of those does your team need the most right now?